The U.S. threatens to end aid to the Caribbean over a vote at the United Nations. That's our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Thursday, December 21. From the CMC News Center in Bridgetown, I'm Nicole Best. Good evening. Several Caribbean nations on Thursday ignored a threat by United States President Donald Trump to cut off American aid to any country that voted in favor of a United Nations resolution condemning his recent decision to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Trump had said he was watching the nations that take U.S. money and then they vote against the country at the Security Council or the General Assembly. He said, and I quote, "We're watching those votes. Let them vote against us. We'll save a lot. We don't care." End of quote. Trump can hold up aid unilaterally as a form of leverage, but cancelling it would require new legislation. Despite the threat, 8 Caribbean countries were among 128 member nations at the UN General Assembly that decisively backed the resolution calling on the U.S. to withdraw its recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital. They were Barbados, Belize, Cuba, Dominica, Grenada, Guyana, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Venezuela. While none of the other Caribbean member nations of the UN voted against the resolution, Antigua and Barbuda, the Bahamas, the Dominican Republic, Trinidad and Tobago, Haiti and Jamaica abstained. St. Kitts and Nevis and St. Lucia were not present for the vote. Earlier this month, as the U.S. was preparing to make its move to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Ministry of Foreign Affairs said any such recognition would imperil the internationally agreed two-state solution, destabilize the Middle East region, and invalidate the important role of the U.S. as an honest broker and driver of the Israeli-Palestinian peace process. Barbados' Prime Minister Frendel Stuart is adamant that he will not ring the general elections bell anytime soon, and he has every intention to serve out his entire 5-year term. Parliament is due to be dissolved by the end of March next year, and according to the Constitution, elections must be called within the next 90 days. Stuart told the final sitting of Parliament for 2017 that his government's work was far from done, even as he rejected outright calls coming from the main opposition Barbados Labour Party, the BLP, for an election date to be fixed and for him to immediately announce the poll. He said he did not believe in exiting office before the constitutional deadline unless special circumstances dictated such. Stuart's comments came days after opposition leader Mia Mottley told supporters to expect the dissolution of Parliament within 60 days. The Prime Minister pledged that even as the imminent date for election approaches, his administration would continue to do what it could to fix a number of challenges facing the Barbados economy and the society. In recent months, the Stuart administration has been faced with public backlash over a number of issues, including the state of the island's roads and sewage spilling over into the streets along the south coast. In Trinidad and Tobago, although police say they have completed their investigation into the so-called Emailgate scandal, Attorney General Faris Al-Rawi says the issue is far from over. He has outlined a number of questions he said still need to be answered after police said they found nothing of substance in the investigations into a matter in which several former government ministers had been accused of being involved in a sinister move to undermine the judiciary, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, and the media. The AG's comments come as opposition members threaten legal action over the scandalous emails that were read out in the Parliament by Dr. Keith Rowley. We get more in this CNC3 news report.
There are a number of open issues on this table, and the Emailgate saga is far from over.
It's a position in serious conflict with the police commissioners. Last week, Stephen Williams indicated the investigation into Emailgate was completed, but nothing of substance came out of it. But Attorney General Faris Al-Rawi says there are several unanswered questions. For example, did the police investigate the existence of emails, or did they attempt to corroborate what they claimed?
Did someone approach the Chief Justice and ask that the DPP be elevated as a judge? Were there tracers and spy equipment in the office of the DPP in the conference room? was a reporter the subject of threats and harassment?
He says if the police service was only investigating the existence of emails, then there are also questions about the period which was examined. He says it is his information that the request to Google was for a very narrow window between August and September of 2012. AG Faris Al-Rawi laments the failure by the police to interview key people in this matter, especially, he says, when information suggests some of what was said in the emails may have taken place.
I can certify now that there was a special branch report produced which demonstrated that there was infrared technology listening equipment capability in the conference room of the DPP. So that's a fact.
AG Al-Rawi says there is also the issue of deleted emails. So as far as he's concerned, the matter is still alive.
I would not be as quick as Mrs. Prasad Bisesa is and the persons that support her to say that this saga is over.
The police service's Emailgate findings are now before the Director of Public Prosecutions.
And that report was from Kamal Georges. Still in Trinidad and Tobago, 9 Cuban nationals were arrested on Wednesday after protesting outside the United Nations office in the capital, Port of Spain. The 5 women and 4 men were charged with obstruction of a public passageway. The Cubans had been living under a tarpaulin outside the UN office, hoping to be granted asylum in the U.S. They had been offered accommodation by the Living Water community but refused to be relocated. Their children, who had been sleeping on the streets with them, have been handed over to the Child Protection Unit of the police service. Moving over to Jamaica, the Police Federation, the organization that represents the rank and file members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force, has once again rejected the latest wage offer from the Andrew Holness-led administration. Following the collapse of wage talks on Wednesday, the Federation said the offer was sluggish, stubborn and unreasonable, and they are calling for Prime Minister Holness to intervene. In a text message to the rank-and-file members of the JCF late Wednesday, the Federation disclosed that the cops were offered 19,000 Jamaica, that's 19,800 Jamaica dollars before tax, but for members to work on public holidays. The Federation said the offer was rejected because it was embarrassing and inadequate. Last week, more than 12,000 rank-and-file members stayed off the job to show their dissatisfaction with the wage offer. We get more in this TVJ News report.
Hundreds of rank-and-file members last week staged a sit-out to contest the wage offer of 6% over 2 years being offered to them by the government. The sit-out left courts without adequate personnel, and other members of society had to step in. But how much of a hindrance was a sit-out to the Jamaica Constabulary Force, JCF? Deputy Commissioner of Police Clifford Blake said the effect of the protest action was significant and almost threatened the JCF's operations. Speaking on RGR's Balancing Justice Tuesday night, DCP Blake disclosed that based on their records, the number of personnel who stayed away equates to approximately 10% of the force.
An unusually high number of our members had called in sick, and at one stage I think we reached just about 1,200. Sometime last week, 10%, yes, significant number. And when you're really short, as we are right now, in excess of 2,500 persons, each member, I can tell you, especially when you work at Smarty Small Old State, that each member is so valuable in terms of, building a patrol to respond to crime inside there. So when you have 2 or 3 persons reporting sick, it does have significant impact.
DCP Blake noted that patrols and street enforcement activities were significantly scaled down, forcing the High Command to quickly implement contingency measures. DCP Blake also provided an update on the numbers currently reporting for duty.
No, as it stands right now, we have normal operation. We just the regular. We looked at the figures this morning, and that was consistent with normal behavior, normal day. So we hadn't seen any unusual spike for the past 2 days.
Still to come in Caribbean Newsline, the Bahamas government announces the liberalization of central bank regulations to improve doing business in the country. That story and more after the break. Stay with us.
did you know that a strategy has been developed to help improve the region's education and human resources?
You didn't? Well, the HID strategy, as it is called, will guide CARICOM in how it delivers quality education and training to the people of the region.
The strategy has been crafted by a group of experts called the HRD Commission.
Consultations have been done across the region to get your input.
Do you know that none of us will be left behind?
The HRD strategy is important to all of us, students, parents, and employers. It will prepare the region, especially the youth, for the 21st century economy and society.
The HRD strategy, unlocking Caribbean human potential.
This is the plaintiff, TK Diamond. She is a professional recording artist and is suing the defendant for the cost of medical treatment and pain and suffering for giving her an STD. She seeks $500. This is the defendant, Derek Johnson. His reasoning, she's a
Anyway, look, man. Okay. Anyway, let's get on. I got business now.
What?
I got business now.
Well, yeah, you handle your business.
The government of the Bahamas has announced the liberalization of central bank regulations in an attempt to improve the doing business climate in the country. Prime Minister Hubert Minnis made the announcement earlier this week, adding that other new reforms will be implemented. We get more in this report from Clint Watson of ZNS Network News.
The administration has made a commitment to improve on the ease of doing business. A special committee tasked with that responsibility has made several recommendations, leading to the announcement by the Prime Minister and his cabinet of a modernization reform he called long overdue.
After consultation with the central bank and discussion with the cabinet, I wish to announce the relaxation of exchange controls on capital transactions, namely on capital, investment, and current account trade transactions.
The changes take effect February 1st, 2018.
Bahamian-owned businesses will be allowed to maintain operating deposit accounts with up to $100,000 in foreign currency at domestic commercial banks. These accounts will have to be funded exclusively from revenues earned in foreign currency.
Central bank approval will still be required for accounts with balances of more than $100,000 in foreign currency. The Prime Minister also announced that the buying and selling rates for the investment currency market will be reduced from 12.5% to 5% and 10% to 2.5%.
Residents will be able to fund investments at a lower rate of 1.05 Bahamian dollars to $1 US, and to repatriate investment currency proceeds to the Bahamas at a rate of 1.025 to $1 US. The bank also proposes to delegate the operation of the investment currency market to commercial banks at a date to be arranged in 2018.
Another reform that will affect a number of Bahamians is upon application to the central bank, Bahamians and residents will be given approval to retain foreign currency denomination deposits or investment assets currently held outside the Bahamas, or they can now bring their money home and maintain the same currency.
If you have money abroad now, you can bring that money back home, deposit it in Bahamian banks here, maintain that foreign currency. That will have an impact on your foreign reserves. That's foreign reserves coming home. What also happen is Bahamians generally like to touch, feel, and see their money. Their monies would now be under the jurisdiction and the legal profile of the Bahamian authority, as opposed to foreign jurisdiction that you have no control of. Not only that, in terms of purchasing, you can purchase without having the bureaucracy of any delay in central bank. You have the money available to you and you can utilize it.
The government will continue to monitor these developments with the aim of bringing about more critical reform.
And still in the Bahamas, 7 months after general elections there, the Organization of American States Electoral Observation Mission has presented its report on the polls and provided recommendations to improve the process. It also pointed to the openness and cooperation of authorities, parties, civic groups, and the people of the country. But Chief of Mission OAS Ombudsperson Sherry Truss also pointed to some concerns, including the state of preparedness of the Parliamentary Registration Department and the appointment of a new parliamentary commissioner just days before the general elections. Truss said those issues combined to create a sense of unease among stakeholders. At the same time, she noted the professional and competent fashion in which the new commissioner and the staff of the registration department ensured the successful completion of the elections. The mission recommended clarification regarding those who are eligible to participate in the advanced poll, putting in place new procedures to avoid a transition between parliamentary commissioners during the electoral process, digitizing registration procedures, and moving toward the use of biometric voter cards and improving voter education. It also suggested enhancing the impartiality of the boundary drawing process, adopting a legal framework on campaign finance, and developing programs to promote women's participation and leadership in politics. And ahead in Newsline Sport, the Barbados government denies that it refused to meet ICC commitments to host the final leg of the Women's World Cup. Stay with us. Sport is next.
Did you know that a strategy has been developed to help improve the region's education and human resources?
You didn't? Well, the HID strategy, as it is called, will guide CARICOM in how it delivers quality education and training to the people of the region.
The strategy has been crafted by a group of experts called the HRD Commission.
Consultations have been done across the region to get your input.
Do you know that none of us will be left behind?
The HRD strategy is important to all of us, students, parents, and employers. It will prepare the region, especially the youth, for the 21st century economy and society.
The HRD strategy, unlocking Caribbean human potential.
The nutmeg, the salt, and let me give you all a little tip. Anytime you're making any desserts, add a little pinch of salt to it. It really enhances the flavor of the dessert. It brings out all the flavors. And the last thing you want to add is your vanilla. So that's how you'll know when it's done.
The Barbados government is rubbishing claims by opposition leader Mia Mottley that it refused to meet commitments by the International Cricket Council for the island to host the final leg of the Women's World Cup. At a recent press conference, Sports Minister Stephen Lashley said his ministry was in the dark about the need to meet a deadline to host the matches. CBC's Akeem Clinkett has that story.
CBC reported yesterday Barbados Cricket Association President Conde Riley confirmed that the Barbados government was given 2 deadline extensions to sign off on a number of guarantees sought by the ICC, but failed to do so. Minister Lashley says the allegations posed by the BCA president are completely foreign to him, considering yesterday was the first time he was made aware of the reported deadlines.
This issue of ICC Women's World T20 bidding process would have been first brought to the attention of the Ministry via communication from the BCA. And of course, I'm now hearing for the first time a number of deadlines which are in the media, which was never communicated to the ministry. I'm hearing there were 3 deadlines, none of which I would have had any previous knowledge about, but I'm reading it in the media.
West Indies women are the defending champions in the Women's T20 World Cup, and Minister Lashley added that although the government was interested in hosting the games, so the questions were not answered by the BCA and Cricket West Indies. This led to Barbados missing out on the opportunity to stage any of the World Cup matches.
I just want to say that to date I'm yet to receive from the BCA, this is the Barbados Cricket Association, any correspondence setting out precisely what the BCA was requesting from the government of Barbados. What was received from the ministry was basically an attachment containing bidding information and a letter of intent in relation to the process by which the BCA wanted to be involved with the West Indies cricket in the hosting of the Women's T20. There has been no cost-benefit analysis provided to the ministry. Nothing to show that the BCA itself has run its own figures, had reviewed what was proposed to them by the West Indies cricket, which is now called Cricket West Indies, or had indeed sought to negotiate an arrangement that could be classified as reasonable.
Minister Lashley also expressed his concern at the state of the Kensington Oval, noting that over $2 million was allocated to complete repair work at the facility, including plumbing, air conditioning units, and roofing of the various stands. He added that long gone are the days where Cricket West Indies can force certain demands on the government of Barbados, considering the financial situation in the country.
The reality that we have to face is that Kensington Oval, as left to us by the last government, has a huge running cost, and therefore any plan to use Kensington Oval, the first thing I have to ask the question is, how is it going to be met? Who is going to pay it? And particularly in relation to the West Indies Cricket Board, where it appears to have been that there's a practice that once you have in these major tournaments, that you can come and you can demand your rates and so on, and leave Kensington Oval with the hole in the buck. I mean, those days, and I want to send a signal, that those days have passed. And I would also urge the West Indies Cricket Board to pay up what it owes Kensington Oval. I understand it owes Kensington Oval some money from the past. I would ask it to pay up those funds.
The ICC Women's World T20 is set to run from November 3rd to the 24th.
West Indies are in danger of losing big hitter Chris Gayle for the one-day doubleheader after the superstar opener fell ill during the opening match on Wednesday. The 38-year-old struck 22 during the Windies innings at Cobham Oval, but never took the field as New Zealand chased down 248 to win the contest by 5 wickets. After the match, head coach Stewart failed to shed any light on Gayle's condition, but said the Jamaican would consult doctors when the team reached Christchurch on Thursday. Gayle appeared in good touch during his innings, blasting 3 fours and a massive 6 in his 31-ball knock before becoming the first wicket to fall, caught at the wicket of man of the match Doug Bracewell. West Indies faced New Zealand in the second ODI at Hagley Oval on Saturday. Over to football. Assistant coach for Jamaica's national under-20 women's team Xavier Gilbert is anticipating a good showdown in their warm-up match against Costa Rica. This as they continue preparations for next year's CONCACAF under-20 football tournament in Trinidad. TVJ's Jermaine Brown tells us more.
There should be no complaints of match shortage when the national under-20 women's team take to the field in Trinidad to seek a place at the 2018 World Cup in France. They are set to play Costa Rica in 2 practice matches on January 3 and 5.
We do a good deal for us, a very good opposition in Costa Rica. We have played at the World Cup and I've normally done well at the CONCACAF level. So we anticipate a very good contest and I think it comes at the opportune time in preparation.
And it does make things better for the coaching staff with the games just 2 weeks ahead of the final round of World Cup qualifiers.
It will just give us a good guide as it relates to where we are, what we need to do and what we need to fix, and hopefully we can get everything right in our first game against Mexico.
The Jamaicans will be seeking one of 3 spots from the CONCACAF region to the World Cup, and they could benefit from being familiar with the stadium in Trinidad where the qualifiers will be played, as they contested 2 practice matches there earlier this year.
That's probably the only advantage. We played there before, we have been there, know what it is like. And then that's it. I don't think it really gives us another advantage, to be honest.
The young Reggae Girls are drawn in Group B alongside the USA, Nicaragua and Mexico, who they'll open against on January 19. Jermaine Brown reporting.
Switching sport now, Trinidad and Tobago's Lalonde Gordon and Jareem Richards were the remaining members of the 4x400 meter relay team to receive that country's second highest award this week. They were part of the team that won gold at the World Champs in London earlier this year. Caston Cupid of Guardian Media Sport was at the second leg of the National Awards function, which also saw Paralympian Akeem Stewart receiving the Shakonia gold medal.
It was a night of excellence and several medal winners were presented with the national awards from their above-average dedication, service and achievements, and that totally embodied the 4x4 relay team. Jerry Richards was the only one from the team present to collect, while Lalonde Gordon's brother collected on his behalf.
I know he'll be happy to collect it, he'll be happy to have been here, but his blessings are here though. But I know he's training hard. So that's the most I can say, training hard, hope to do the nation proud again.
Richards also shared his sentiments and looked towards the future, a brighter 2018.
It really means a lot. It's a very prestigious medal to get, and not a lot of people have the opportunity to collect such a prestigious medal, and I'm very grateful and thankful for the opportunity that we got. Top 2017 to me is just to leave it up to God, because he has never done me wrong before, so I'm just going to go out there, train twice as hard, and now being me graduating, I could put 100% into track and field and not have to worry about studying or getting assignments done, so I could actually put 100% to one thing, and hopefully, God's willing, everything will go all right, and I'm just looking for more PRs, more medals, and everything like that for Trinidad and Tobago.
And that's the sport. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Again, the major developments of this day: several Caribbean nations ignore a threat by U.S. President Donald Trump to cut off American aid to countries that vote in favor of a UN resolution condemning his decision to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. And that's Caribbean Newsline. For news and sport around the clock, log on to KanaNews.com. Of course, we'll be here again tomorrow. I wouldn't. So I'm going to wish you now a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Have yourselves a good night.